guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is 49 years old. He is a husband and father. He has 3 kids, I believe, 2 sons and a daughter. And he shares his story, how he recently discovered some things about his daughter that he's not too pleased about. You're going to see, guys, that our guy here's daughter had a boyfriend for a number of years. Liked the guy, thought he was probably going to be maybe a future son-in-law. And then one day, this young guy talks to him, as well as his sons, about some advice about a situation with a friend. About a friend whose girlfriend proposed an open relationship, and obviously it's a big mess. And lo and behold, the guy wasn't talking about a friend. He was talking about this guy's daughter. And as you can probably imagine, didn't go too well with this guy. And you're going to see, guys, how this guy and his wife handles things like a boss with regards to his daughter after finding out about this despicable person she's become with this regard. And let me tell you, you guys are going to find it quite entertaining. And what I love about this story is both how the dad and the mom handle it, as well as the dad even though it's his daughter, he knows she is not exactly a high-quality gal, and he takes the side of the boyfriend here, rightfully so. So for you guys that like good entertaining ones dealing with open relationships and that type of thing, you will find this very, very enjoyable. Now, this is a longer one, so I'm going to split this up into 2 parts, and I'll do the first part now, and then want the second part in 2 hours, so don't worry, you'll get it all in one night. And stop yelling at me, because I know you're yelling at me about that, but trust me, this is one you guys are going to want to hear. So it starts off, says here, hello SSM. You can call me Alex. I'm 49, and I love the channel and the work that you're doing, trying to educate men on the realities of the modern dating scene. I want to share an interesting situation that happened a few months ago with my oldest child, a daughter that I will call Cindy, who's 26 years old. Her mother and I have been married for 28 years. Some years have been better than others, but on the scale, it's been a good marriage. There's no such thing as any kind of relationship, let alone marriage, where every minute is all sunshine and rainbows. It doesn't work that way. So we have 3 kids, our oldest Cindy, and then 2 sons, each 2 years apart. In my mind, I would say we have a typical family, but that's from my own worldview of growing up in the 1970s and 80s. There were some divorces, but for the most part, the people in both of our families are intact nuclear families. I can't claim they're all happy, but they're together and making it work. For myself, I think I'm happy, but it goes to that age-old question, do crazy people know they're crazy? No, they don't. In short, I have no real complaints, and I love my family. My wife and I tried to raise our kids with the same values that we were raised with, and I thought the lessons took. But I guess you can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. Neither of my sons, who are 22 and 24, are married, and I've talked with them a lot about waiting until they get their own lives in order before they try to take on that responsibility. Thank you, Dad. Very good. They're young, impressionable guys just starting off in life, 22, 24 years old. I hope they watch my channel. And this is when they should be establishing themselves, busting their asses to finish up school and hopefully in something sensible, or the trade, or starting the workforce and getting their skills, paying their dues and all that, not thinking about marriage, but if they're going to do that one day, okay, just make sure they're fully armed with reality. And quite frankly, how this whole thing goes down with your daughter, they've gotten themselves a major lesson. For my daughter, I only advised her that when she finds a man who treats her right, and one she thinks would make a stable father and husband, to hold on to him, and if he proposes, to really think about what she has, and not be thinking the grass is greener on the other side. Sir, that is like, that went in one ear and out the other with her, as is so many gals. Because in their mind, I can always get something better. The grass is always greener. To monkey branch over. To toss to the side of the road a good guy for that thrill and the butterflies and Chad and Tyrone, or somebody better. Your daughter is 26 in her prime. And given the age we're in, the era, I've seen too many stories where these young ladies let good men slip away from their lives because they think they can do better, until they wake up one day alone and have nothing in their lives but their cats. Pretty much. And don't forget the box wine. I see enough of your videos to see that a lot of your viewers think this is a modern phenomenon, but I'm here to tell you it isn't. Women have always had more options to choose from, and like this generation, my generation was just as stupid. Well, your generation is basically my generation. I'm only 2 years younger than you. From the talks I've had growing up with my dad and my grandfathers, their generations were just as stupid as mine. Nothing you see today is new. Maybe it's called something else, but these behaviors have always been around. Human nature is human nature. It's not going to change over time. We have people that are trying to do social engineering now to try to change the human nature and the nature of the genders. And that can work for a little bit, but overall, no. This is why I said my material, the things I cover, and my viewpoints on things is works anywhere in the world. Human nature is the same as it was 5,000 years ago, for goodness sake. But the thing is, compared to our generation, a fellow Gen Xer that you are, and your parents and grandparents, they didn't have social media back then. There wasn't online dating. There wasn't the capacity to get 24/7, 365 attention and validation all the time. Back in the day, girls had to go out to the mall and walk around and get attention. Now they can just do it from their fucking phones from dudes all over the world. I mean, it's caused a lot of problems, to say the least. It says, for the younger guys out there, if you haven't done it yet, have a real conversation with the men in your lives, and they'll tell you the same thing that like SSM says all the time. Never take dating advice from women. They're always going to be self-serving, even though I don't blame them, because men should also be self-serving. When two people meet and their needs, wants, and desires match, that's just the start. It's a great start, but still, it's only the first step in a long-term relationship, and relationships take a lot of work. Exactly. And yes, don't take dating advice, pickup advice, relationship advice from women. One, they're self-serving, or two, a lot of women, I've found this, don't entirely get or want to accept what they respond to emotionally. You know? I've had girls say to me that they don't like bad boys. No, I don't like bad boys. And it's like, really? Well, let's go back and look at your different boyfriends and guys you dated. And they're like, shut up. Because I know I'm right. Yeah, it's funny when women try to debate me about these things. And sometimes I'll have my fun with them. Other times I'll say, don't even waste your fucking breath. Because a lot of people in my social circles know what I do for a living. And some like it and some do not. One thing I lucked out on is I probably married too young and too soon. But we've been proactive in nourishing our relationship, and anything that we were united front on, we talked about until we found a compromise that worked for the both of us. Well, good for you. I'm not talking about a woman's idea of compromise. You know, when you give in to what she wants. Compromise is when both people give up something for the greater good. If you find there isn't a way to compromise on something, that's your big writing on the wall that you aren't suited for each other. Cut your losses. Exactly. Yeah, he's right. That a woman's way of compromising is basically she's still going to get what she wants, but just in a different way of, presenting it. You don't have to be a dick about it, though. People disagree on plenty, and that's okay. When I was younger, there was this idea that we can agree to disagree. That's fine. Not everything needs to be a fight, and it's perfectly fine not to agree about everything. Think about it like this. Say you have a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but at the start you know it's missing 10 pieces. Are you going to spend the time and energy to put it together knowing that it will always be incomplete? Unless you're self-hating, most people will accept it as a lost cause from the start and not waste their time. For guys, you must take the same stance when you're risking half of everything you own and wasted years. Marriage isn't a destination. It's the start of a long and grueling race. He says, okay, enough dad talk here. Let me tell you what happened that has me writing in. Well, it's okay with the dad talk, the preamble to this, because, this is good wisdom. This is backing up shit I say. So he says here, it was at the end of July, so we're talking only a few months ago, when we were having a family dinner when what happened occurred. My son each brought a date. My youngest said she was just a friend, but it was clear she was into him. And my middle son brought his girlfriend of 2 years. She's a nice gal, and from what I can tell, treats him right. My daughter brought her long-term boyfriend, who had been visiting regularly for years. They've been together for a little more than 4 years, and I really liked him. For the story, I will call him Max. He's 27 years old. Greetings, Max. So Cindy and Max met in college and have been dating ever since. There was no doubt in my wife's or my mind that they would end up married one day. They were that couple. Over the years, I've had a chance to get to know Max pretty well, and he is a good guy who treats my daughter with respect. Well, sadly, guys that are too good and treat their girls with respect get what is about to happen to poor Max. I'm sorry to say. When I first met him, I thought he was a little quiet, but since then, he's been able to open up to me a lot. I'm not going to lie and say he was like a son to me. He was not. My sons are my sons. But he was a man who I believe would be a great father for my daughter's future children. Okay, fair enough. He may have become like a son to you in time. He is hardworking, serious by his profession and his personal life, and was not a playboy. He knew what he wanted and was actively working towards his goals, with the understanding that if he hurt my daughter, there wasn't anywhere he could hide. It's just the law of the West. You hurt my daughter, I hurt you. A little side note. He says, mothers give children the emotional support they need to be empathetic adults. Dads keep their daughters off stripper poles, and don't give me that crap that the world's a different place. It's not. The technology might be different, but people are still people. Yeah, that's the number one thing. The dad is fearful, the daughter going on the pole. But nowadays, we can upgrade that to a dad finding out his girl's on OnlyFans. Or his daughter is the town bicycle or wants to do open relationships and be like the town bicycle. So it was about 9 months before everything went down that Max called me and was telling me how much he loved Cindy and that he was thinking about proposing to her. I really liked that kid, and I gave him the same advice I gave my two sons. I told him that he was too young for marriage and he needed to have his ducks in a row before he took on that responsibility. He was afraid that if he didn't propose to her, she might think he wasn't serious, and I told him that a wedding is just a date on the calendar. If they were good together and she really loved him, it wouldn't matter when they got married as long as that was the end goal. Exactly. And a good woman would understand this, I might add. He says, sorry, but I've seen too many stories about couples who married before it was time that end up in total destruction of two lives and families. Some people might think I was sabotaging my daughter's future, but I disagree. I want her to be married, but at the right time and for the right reasons. Exactly. And given the maturity level of a lot of today's 20-somethings, no, they're not fucking ready on multiple fronts here. There's simply too much at risk jumping into something that both parties aren't mentally and financially prepared for. I would rather see her stay single for a little while longer than I would see her in a few years down the road getting a divorce and maybe some kids in the mix. I asked Max why he was thinking about proposing, and he said that he loved her and wanted to spend his life with her. I told him that's fine, but that's not the answer. That's a dream. He asked what I meant, and I told him that I was happy he thought so highly of my daughter, but what was the short-term and long-term plans? How would they solve disagreements? How would they manage their finances? Who would be responsible for certain things in the relationship? I told him getting married without any really considering the deep issues that occur in relationships would be like a football team taking the field without a playbook and just reacting to the moment. Well, that's what a lot of people do, actually. It would end in disaster because they weren't prepared. I told him that marriage isn't a goal, it's a start. The goal in a long life is someone you respect enough to share your life with. He admitted that he hadn't really considered anything I was talking about and thanked me for talking to him. Yeah, thank you for talking to him, because obviously he didn't have somebody to tell him this shit. Honestly, there should be a class in grade school that teaches these things, but I guess that wouldn't jive with the current climate of how important marriage and family is. When you treat marriage and family as optional, it usually is, and I believe the current divorce statistics back that up. I agree, but also the fact that no-fault divorces, right? It's like, hey, doesn't work out, I can get half. No big deal, no consequences. It's just easy to do it, amongst many other things. Simply put, love is nice, but it's not enough to make marriage work. Exactly. But try to tell that to some young couple who's young, 20s, in love, who just doesn't have the life experience and maturity yet. Marriage takes work, compromise, and sacrifice, and a lot of it. It should go without saying that I've had these talks with my sons. I want them to be successful in their lives, and that includes their relationships. Nothing good ever comes from rushing into important things unprepared. Exactly. It was after that dinner I mentioned above when everything changed. The ladies were hanging out in the living room with some wine and doing what women do best, gossip. My sons, Max and I, were on the deck in the backyard shooting the shit, and I was enjoying my after-dinner cigar. By the way, I know cigars aren't good for me, but that's my vice. Thankfully, it's a vice that neither of my sons have adopted. We all have our vices. I like Coca-Cola, and I will drink my Coca-Cola to the day I fucking die, even though I should not be drinking soda, or at least in very, very moderation. But since I do everything else right, I'm going to enjoy my fucking Coke. If I die a little early, so be it. There, Coca-Cola just got some advertising. Give me some fucking money. Anyway, we were just enjoying the evening, talking about what was going on in my son's lives, but I noticed that through dinner and now on the deck that Max was more quiet than he usually was. Aha! I wonder why. At one point I asked him if there was something bothering him, and he gave one of those hesitations that told me there was, but either he didn't want to talk about it or he wasn't sure if he should. When he didn't answer right away, I told him it was fine if he didn't want to talk about it and to forget I asked. He hesitated again, but then said he had something on his mind and he wasn't sure how to handle it and asked if we could give him some advice. We all said sure, and he told us about one of his friends. Oh God, here we go. So I have this friend who's having this trouble here. He said his friend's girlfriend asked to open up their relationship and his friend didn't know how to process it. So he asked for Max's opinion, and that was what was bothering him. Almost immediately, both of my sons were telling him that if she's asking, that more than likely means she's already cheating and that his friend should dump her. Well, you did a good job with your sons, sir. Good job, because they know. That's exactly it, guys. She's cheating, has somebody in mind, or guess what? She doesn't love you. Because no woman that loves their guy would ever fucking do that. A, would want somebody else, or B, potentially risk losing their guy to some other chick. Women that do that are selfish assholes, amongst many other things, and in no way, shape, or form or should you be with them anymore. Dump right on the spot. End of story. Except the twist is, who's this girl? Well, obviously you all know. They went on to tell him some stories about how they saw what they saw in college in their own friend groups, and my sons both agreed that if they asked, the relationship is already over. My oldest said that he had one friend that tried to make it work, but the relationship crashed and burned in less than 6 months, and it wasn't until it was already over that his friend found out that she was sleeping with a couple other guys for most of their relationship. Shocker. This poor guy Max is probably just like, oh my God. You know, I'm thinking this Max, the way the guy here is describing this, gents, Max probably thought he was doing everything right, being the good boyfriend to her, loving, loyal, and all that, and now she's asking for the open relationship. The longer my sons talked, the more depressed Max looked, and when they said their piece, he asked what I would do and how would I tell a friend what I thought he should do. I'm not a prude, but I'll admit that I wasn't as knowledgeable on the open relationship talk as my sons. Back in my day, they were just called swingers. I guess it's the same thing, I think. I asked Max what his friends thought about the idea, and he said his friend didn't want to share his girlfriend with other people, but he was afraid that people would start calling him controlling and other names if he didn't go along with it. The shaming tactics, you're controlling, you're insecure, blah, blah, blah. Well, clearly this friend is not the strongest masculine male that we all want him to be, because that wouldn't matter to him. So this, let's just fucking say it, Max here needs to, get some balls, not care about shaming tactics and fall for that crap. I never really given much weight to other people calling me names, but I could see how it could influence some people. I thought about it, and I thought about what advice would I give to my own sons. I told them that if what my son said were right, then the relationship was already over. The only thing left to do was end it and keep some dignity. I said that if your girl is always trying to hang out with her single friends without you, doing girls' nights, going on girls' trips, hanging out with other men and calling them friends, or in this case, asking directly for permission to cheat on him, walk away. Exactly. And he means basically also her behaving like she's single even though she's with you. No woman who really loves and respects her guy is going to be doing those things. Don't get angry, don't argue, don't justify or try to explain your feelings, and under no circumstances beg her to change her mind. Just accept that she's not the one and wish her well, walk out the door and unlock it. And lock it. Pretty much. He says life has too much potential going forward to let an anchor wear you down, and if a woman is so brazen to ask you to your face for permission to cheat, my sons are probably right. She's probably already cheating and doesn't care if she loses you or not. I say it's better to find out that the two people aren't a match early on instead of staying with them, or worse, getting married to a person that doesn't respect you. Amen. And a woman that asks their guy to do that doesn't respect him. And if a woman doesn't respect you, she doesn't love you. By the time I was finished, Max was leaned over with his head in his hands. I know it's hard to give bad news to your friends, and I was about to give him some encouragement to stand by his friend when he looked up and apologized to all of us. He said he was sorry, but he wanted to get some unbiased advice, and then he told me that he wasn't talking about a friend, but it was my daughter that asked him for the open relationship. Yeah. Imagining hearing that. It's equivalent to the fucking poll. This guy now hears that his daughter is one of those. The brothers hear that their sister is one of those. Yeah, let that all sink in here. You know, children are definitely, parents are responsible to a degree how their kids are, particularly as kids. But when kids grow up and become adults, a parent can try their best to set a good example and all that, but if somebody becomes a low life as an adult, that's on them. So, holy crap. Well, guys, this is the point where I'm going to cut this off and my cliffhanger here. And in part 2, which I'll publish in 2 hours, I promise, you're going to see how this whole thing goes with Max and the guy telling the story here, the father, and we enter his wife. And let me tell you something. Wait till the father and the wife handle the daughter here. And let me tell you, you're going to like the wife because she is badass, and how this whole thing plays out, because even though this is his daughter, our guy here, this daughter's never going to be the same after this. So guys, see you in 2 hours. You definitely will get your money's worth.